Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our panel discussion. My name is James Whitehouse. I'm head of school at Elmwood School here in Rockcliffe Park. For the next 60 minutes, you're going to be hearing from alumni and two parents of the school. And I'm going to be posing particular questions to them all so you can get a sense of the school. But you're also going to have a chance to ask your own questions. So you'll notice there's a chat function available to you. So if you post any questions you have in the chat, towards the end of the session, we will take those questions and answer them. I'll direct them to relevant people or answer them myself. Before we start, I did want to introduce our panel and everyone on the call today. So I'm going to ask those people to introduce themselves, and I'm just going to start with Sijil Fasid. So Sijil, do you want to say hi and welcome everybody?
Hi everybody, my name's Sijil. I graduated from Elmwood in 2017 and I started at the school in 2007. So I was there for a total period of 10 years. And since leaving Elmwood, I'm currently in my fourth year of a biomedical science undergraduate degree at the University of Ottawa. And I'm really happy to be here today.
Thank you, Sijil. And next up, Ryan Schwartz, who is a parent in the school. Ryan, could you say hi?
Sure, thanks, Mr. Whitehouse. Hi, everyone. Ryan Schwartz here. I am the proud father of a daughter, Bridget, who is in grade 6 at Elmwood. She's in the middle school, and she joined Elmwood early in the school year when she was in grade 5, so early in 2019. So we are relatively new members to the Elmwood community.
Excellent. Thank you, Ryan. And Julie Petit, who has 3 daughters at Elmwood. I'll say hi, Julie.
Hi, so hi, my name is Julie. I have 3 daughters at Elmwood. They're in grades 8, 10, and 12. We moved from Texas probably, I guess, 3 years ago. This is our 3rd year at Elmwood. And yeah, the girls have settled in really nicely. They're very active in the school. So yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing with everyone today.
Thanks, Julie. I'm going to introduce Jennifer Owen-Jackson to you and to say hi.
Hello there. My name is Jennifer Owen-Jackson. As James said, I'm the Director of Marketing and Community Relations. I'm also a parent at the school. I have a daughter who is in grade 6, same grade as Ryan's daughter, and Rose has been there since she was in senior kindergarten, so 7 years.
Thank you, Jennifer. And last but no means least, Elise Allen, who's our Director of Admissions. Elise, do you want to say hi? You're on mute.
Was not before. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good.
Great. All right, my apologies. My name's Elise Allen. I'm the Director of Admissions, and I've been at Elmwood for about 7 years, and I have 2 daughters who actually graduated from the school as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Elise. Now, just a reminder, if you want to pose your questions in the chat, and if you have a question for a particular person, please let that be known in the chat so we know who to direct your questions to. Okay, so we're going to start the questions aimed at Sijil. So Sijil is I'm going to ask her some questions, and she's going to respond, and then I'll move on to both Ryan and Julie. So I'm going to start with my first question to Sijil. Just a reminder, Sijil came to Elmwood, so she has firsthand experience of the school. So Sijil, what did you appreciate most about the school during your time here? And how is your perspective on that change now that you've had some distance from the school?
Right. So I think the first and foremost thing that I've appreciated about the school the most is the vast array of opportunities that we were given as students, and also the dedication of the staff and my peers in encouraging me to pursue the vast number of opportunities that were kind of put our way. And since I've graduated, the biggest kind of takeaway I've learned from my time at Elmwood is to always go for something. Don't let your inhibitions hold you back, because this idea of letting your inhibitions get in your way and stopping yourself from doing something has hindered me in the past. And knowing that I have the skills and the capability to kind of tackle anything that comes my way is something that I really appreciate, and that's something that I've taken forward in both in my academics and in kind of my professional life as a research assistant.
That's awesome. Thanks, Sijil. And what, to the best of your knowledge, most differentiates the school from other schools?
Right. There's a few things, actually. First, I think it's the tight-knit community between both the staff and the students. Apart from the small class size, everyone knows each other. They're all in pretty good relationships with one another, and I think that's great. It's a very homely environment for the student. And as well, the all-girls environment is very nurturing, and you see girls supporting each other through their education and their kind of extracurricular pursuits. And that's something I really valued. As a shy person coming into the school, you can say that I was not very willing to participate in many things. I would not go for clubs. I would kind of sit by myself at recess and not try to make many friends. But I found that with the encouragement of my peers and my teachers, I started to step out of my comfort zone and try new things. And that's something I really valued. And lastly, I'd like to talk about the diversity in the student population and the staff population. That's not something I saw very much in my previous schools. By the way, I've been through both the public and the private system. So I did not really see that level of diversity in my peers or in the teachers that were teaching me in the classroom. So the fact that Elmwood has that diversity, and not only has it, but also celebrates it through activities such as International Night and Francophonie Night, that's something that stuck with me as a first-generation immigrant. And yeah, I guess that's what I value about the school the most.
That's awesome, Sigil. Thanks so much. And I'm now going to ask this question to all the panelists because it's a question for everyone to answer. So we'll start with you, Sigil, and then we'll go on to Ryan and then Julie. If the school, sorry, put some back. Okay, if the school were to be represented as a single person, what would its personality be like in only 3 words? So Sigil, over to you first, and then on to Ryan.
Right, this actually took me some time to think of, but I have come up with just 3 words to describe the school. The first trait that came to mind was nurturing, because Elmwood really fosters a positive environment in which girls feel like they can be themselves and not kind of be under the scrutiny of being judged. And not only do teachers and fellow peers encourage students to pursue new opportunities and new endeavors, but they also provide them with the opportunities to stretch themselves. And I think that's really important. There's a balance between nurturing and encouraging someone to, try new things. Secondly, I think the school is driven. Elmwood's always looking towards ways of tailoring their education to ways in which girls learn best. And that's something I found really valuable. And with drive comes innovation. So Elmwood, from what I saw at my time there, is always looking for ways in which to connect with the broader world of education and tailor their teaching techniques to ways in which girls learn best. But not only that, they're also incorporating new, novel technologies into their teaching strategies in order to make the educational experience a really wholesome one. So yeah, those are my 3 traits: nurturing, driven, and innovative.
Thank you so much, Sigil. Ryan, over to you. Follow that.
Tough act to follow. And 3 words is a tough one. But if it was, if it was a person and I had to describe their personality, I would also use nurturing. I think that's a really good one to describe the school. I would also use inspiring, and I would also use credible. So for nurturing, I chose that one because I think it's obvious that the school cares about the development and the growth of the girls. And I think, there's a very clear intent of shaping the girls into successful women who want to contribute to the betterment of society and the world. I think inspiring because Elmwood creates an atmosphere that is not only inspiring to the girls in and of themselves, but it's one that, my sense and my impression is that it creates this environment of wonderment about the world. And whether that's on, the more of the STEM side or the arts and culture side, I feel like Elmwood really creates this sense of wonder within the girls such that they want to learn as much as they possibly can. So that's kind of what I mean about inspiring. Lastly, with respect to credible, I kind of came out with this one because it's an institution that's founded in excellence. And I know that might sound a little bit cliche, but what impressed me about Elmwood when we were first looking at researching schools and opportunities for our daughter was the was some of the statistics that were on your website in terms of, 100% university placement rate and something like a 90 to 95% scholarship rate. So to me, that was evidence of, a very strong institution, both academically and culturally as well, and one that really kind of conveyed that sense of credibility to me. So those are the three I would say: nurturing, inspiring, and credible.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Ryan. That's great. And Julie, over to you.
What is left now? So I came at it a little bit differently. So if Elmwood was a person, I would say that she was a sister, because so at Elmwood, I mean, my girls, they're three, they're sisters. But when you come to Elmwood, everyone there, whether it's a teacher, whether it's the other students, everyone there treats you like you're their sister. Like, it becomes this giant family. All the girls know each other, even in the different grades. Every teacher has contact with every student. So it becomes this big giant family. So you feel welcomed, you feel, maybe you get into disagreements, but there's always a way to figure it out. It always comes back. So like, a sister is definitely one of the words that I would choose to describe Elmwood. Another word that I would choose is like risk taker. So kind of like what Sigil was saying, is that sometimes the girls arrive and they're sort of shy, they're not really sure. Elmwood will work to get you out of your shell and push you to become a risk taker, to just go out there and try things that you wouldn't necessarily have tried. You've never played volleyball, that's okay. Try out for the volleyball team. It'll be fun at the very least. Or join a club that you're interested in, but you're not too sure. Maybe at your previous school, people would have judged you for what you thought. Here, there's no judging. Like, you're just encouraged to take risks and go and try new things. And the other one was traditional. So traditional, not in sort of like an old-fashioned term, in like, there's a lot of traditions at Elmwood, and I love how that just makes, it brings the girls closer together. They have assembly, and there's all these things that they do that makes the school, it feels like you're in an institution where the traditions are valued, and it's important that the girls look their best and act their best and say their best and produce their best work. So yeah, it's like good traditions. Those are my words.
That's amazing. Thank you, Julie. I will say that none of this is rehearsed, so it's great for me. This is the first time I've heard these coming out, so it's awesome. It's really awesome to hear that. Sigil, we're going to go back to questions to you now. So the next question for you: what would families find most surprising about our school?
Yeah, I guess this is related to Julie's comment about tradition, and that the one tradition that we have that I hold very personally to my heart is our white dress ceremony on graduation. Traditionally, high school graduations involve a cap and a gown and walking across the stage and receiving your diploma. But at Elmwood, we walk across the stage in our white dresses. And I found that definitely to be unusual, but I think it makes your transition from a student to an alumna even more special, and it strengthens the bond that you've created with your school, with the school during your time at Elmwood. And what's also interesting is that each dress is an expression of yourself as a person, and I valued that. Being able to walk across the stage in my traditional Pakistani outfit was really nice. And yeah, as I said, it deepens the personal connection that you have with your school. And for me, at least, it kind of helped me come back to the school every time there was a dinner. Miss Aylin asked me to speak at the 100 Nights dinner back in March. I came. If there's a panel like this, I come. It's just, I don't think I can say no, just because the bond that I have with the school becomes stronger. It's become stronger since I've left, and the white dress ceremony helped with that, I guess.
That's amazing. Thanks so much. And the last question for you, Sigil, is what advice would you give to students who are just entering the school?
Right. Yeah, I think my advice would echo a lot of what I said in response to your previous questions, and that would be to leverage all the opportunities that the school provides you. I don't think I have ever been to an institution where we were given so much to work with. Honestly, we were given so much to work with. The number of extracurricular opportunities that we had access to was unbelievable for me. And I think that leveraging those is really going to benefit a student who attends the school, because it can really change the way your life pans out after you leave Elmwood, right? For example, I was avidly involved in the Cappies team at Elmwood School when I was in grade 9 through grade 12, and we were a team of 9 students who would go around to different high schools in the Ottawa region and review their plays. That's when I realized that I actually had a love for creative writing and reviewing articles and reviewing plays and such. So in university, I joined a not exactly the same thing, but I joined a science writing club. And had I not had that involvement with Cappies back in high school, I don't think I would have joined a science writing club and kind of continued to evolve my review of scientific literature. So that's just one example. There are countless examples like that. But definitely, if you as a student want to experience the Elmwood experience maximally, I would advise you to engage with whatever opportunities come your way, both academic and extracurricular.
Sigil, thanks so much. It's amazing to see you again, obviously, as I know Sigil very well from my time with her in school, and she was just a fantastic student in the school and a real ambassador. Thank you so much. We can stay on the line though, because some people may have some questions later for you. I'm now going to move over to the parents, and I'm going to start with Julie. So Julie, you're first, and both parents are going to answer the same question, just so we're all clear. The first question is, why did you choose the school originally? In which ways is the school what you expected, and in which ways is it not? So we'll start with Julie, and then we'll move over to Ryan.
So it kind of a funny circumstance, the way it came about being. So my husband and I both went to school in French in Quebec, which makes it extremely difficult for you to come home to Quebec and have children who, raised in Texas, went to English school. So we sort of started looking at what our options were, and they were not fabulous. So immediately I looked at Elmwood, and I mean, it was instantaneous. The website was super attractive. Everything is exciting. You're like, okay, I love this place. But then your first point of contact is with Elise, and she's welcoming, and she says, no problem. You're in Texas, you're far, we'll get this figured out. So we had Zoom meetings with the girls for them to do their interviews. We had testing that they had done in Texas that got transferred up, just everything. This was all before we had even visited Elmwood. We came at spring break, we visited Elmwood, and from the moment that we were here, my husband and I were looking at each other, and I was like, we could not get here fast enough. So we came here because it was sort of one of the only options that was really gonna work, but in the end of the day, it turned out to be the best thing possible for my girls. So we came because it was the right thing, like it was sort of the only thing that could work, but at the end of the day, it ended up being like the most phenomenal solution that we could find. So that's why we came to Elmwood. And then second part of the question was, now I can't remember, and I'm too excited.
It was in which ways is the school what you expected, and which ways is it not?
Okay, so like we expected, the academics are superior, the girls, because they're in small groups, some of the classes are as small as like 5 or 6 or 7 girls, depending on what the elective is and how many girls are taking it. So it's not so much like a classroom as it is a discussion always. The teacher is just like one of the players and is kind of feeding the girls information, and they're feeding it back. And so that part, like the academics are superior. So that I was expecting it, it's definitely there. The stuff that I was not expecting was, well, like I was saying earlier, is this whole family feeling. Like you come in for your tour and it feels a bit surreal. But when you actually come after their very first day, they were like, Mom, all the other girls were like, hi, you're new. Who are you? Where are you from? What's your story? There wasn't this whole like sort of trying to fit in and not being sure. Immediately you're welcomed in, and your homeroom teacher is also your sister's math teacher. Like just everybody knows everyone, and very quickly the whole school knows who you are, and it's just that great feeling of community.
So thanks, Julie. That's great. Great to hear. Ryan, over to you. Same question.
Okay, thanks. So we had a different arc, I would say, than Julie, at least at the start, but the exact same ending. So we chose Elmwood, and we were introduced to Elmwood because we initially started attending summer camps there for our daughter. This was maybe 6 or 7 years ago, I think. And at the time we were just looking for some variety for her and something different. The all girls aspect of that was definitely attractive at the time of at least camp, recognizing that, you know, when at that time our daughter was in the public school system. So when she started to go to camp, I think my wife found the website, and again, like Julie said, it was an attractive proposition. It looked great. We signed her up, and you know, for the 1 or 2 weeks of the summer that we were there, we just grew increasingly impressed with the facilities, with the programming, with the interaction, and the level of dedication. And so we started to think about, wow, like, wouldn't this be a nice option for her to go full time? So, you know, over time, we sort of grew a little, I would, to be honest, you know, disheartened with some of the circumstances on the public system. So we started to seriously consider, you know, our alternatives. And we looked, you know, across a broad range of options, other schools in the public system. We also looked at other private schools. And at the end of the day, Elmwood was a standout for us. And it was just such a welcoming place. And it had such a warm and accepting sort of vibe to it, that there was really no other option for us at the end of the day. And you know, it was a fairly easy decision for my wife and I, after having met with a couple of people and having, you know, Bridget gone for her, they call them taster days, where she goes and sits in on the class. And like Julie's point, it was like the teacher was a moderator and the kids were having a discussion almost like they were sitting around the UN security table. It was unreal. So we were really super impressed. And after that day that Bridget came home, she says, I cannot go to school anywhere else. So so that was really why we chose Elmwood. We did our due diligence. We were introduced via a summer camp, and I'm happy to say that it worked out then when we ended up sending her there in the end. So in terms of what we expected, similar to Julie's comment, it was the quality of the education, the excellence of the academics. The small class size was, you know, a real selling feature for us. I think her class size went from 36 in the public system down to 15 here. So she ended up having a lot more engagement and one-on-one opportunity with the teachers. I would also say, just, you know, again, like just the overall, and I've said this before, and it's a bit of a cliche, but just the overall standard of excellence, and it really does convey and portray that. So that was expected. I think what was not expected for us, or what we were surprised by, was the focus on arts and culture at Elmwood. And by that, I mean, in particular, the music and the theater programs. And I never would have expected that they would be so well developed as they were. And our first introduction to that was the Remembrance Day ceremony in November 2019. And the girls were up singing in Latin. Like it honestly brought tears to your eyes, or did to my eyes in that setting. And then that was followed by, you know, the holiday concert. And then later in the year, there was the school play led by Mrs. Pike, and it was Pandora's Box. And it was just mind blowing, like just overwhelmingly emotional to have, you know, that kind of a focus on the arts program. So to me, that was what we found to be fairly unexpected, was the quality of that.
Well, thank you guys. I mean, it is emotional hearing you talk. That's definitely what we are as a school, and it's great to hear it from you. The next question, I'm Ryan, I'm going to keep you on, and then we'll go to Julie. The next question is, what is the biggest impact the school has had on your child?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I would break this down into two components, specifically in this order. And the first one is her happiness, like just her overall happiness. Like, Elmwood has made her a much happier kid. She was always a happy kid, but in the context of school, you know, this is a place that she looks forward to going to every day. She's excited by it. She is happy to get up in the morning, happy to get ready for school, happy to go to school. I would also say that she's very happy to come home, but that's not because she had to go to school. That's because she had a great day, right? So, you know, she loves to talk about her day, and she's always just very excited. And you can tell that it's had a very positive influence on her in terms of, you know, her general sense of well-being in the context of education. The second point that I would say relates to, I think, what Sigil mentioned in one of the opening questions was Bridget's confidence. So when we were looking around for alternatives to her previous school, what really appealed to us was a safe space. And by that, I mean a place where she's free to try new things and, you know, and to express herself in a way that she doesn't have to worry about or feel self-conscious about. And this, you know, further to Sigil's point, this includes trying new things, like whether it's new sports, new clubs. She's done and tried things at Elmwood that she would never have considered in her previous academic situation, just for fear of being made fun of by, you know, a group of boys or something like that. So again, I think that Elmwood has been, has had a very big impact on Bridget's confidence in terms of, you know, her willingness to, you know, again, as Sigil said, put herself out there, be proactive, meet people. And that's exactly what we wanted to do with her. We recognized that, you know, or we felt, and I'm a biased parent, but I recognize that, you know, she had a bit of a spark, and we wanted to really harness that and enable that and nurture that. And this has been a great place for Bridget to do that.
Amazing. Thanks, Ryan. That's really good. Julie, same question. Do you want me to repeat it, or are you good?
No, good. Impact. Yeah, so I'll try to kind of situate you with each of my daughters, because there could not be more different. They all look the same, but they could not be personality-wise more different. And what I'm always impressed with is how Elmwood has enabled each one of them to grow, but in different ways, because they needed it in different ways. So my eldest daughter, who's in grade 12, Alex, is a go-getter. I said she was 40 when she was born. She's got everything figured out. She knows where she's going. She knows what she's doing, but she's doing the full IB diploma program, and it's pushing her. It's pushing her pretty hard, but she loves it. So she's doing biology, she's doing chemistry. She has to do some kind of special assessment. So yesterday she brought 2 garlic things from home that she's been growing roots on, and she had to soak them in dye. I didn't fully understand what all of it was about, but she's thriving because she wants to be pushed. And if the teachers know that you want to be pushed, they will push you and get you where you want to be. So for Alex, it's been great because she's super high reaching, and she's not bored, for sure not bored. My second daughter in grade 10, Zoli, would love to be a wallflower. She would love if no one would talk to her and no one would notice her. And so for her, I think the first few months at Elmwood were a bit more difficult, because she was like, oh, I have to pay attention all the time because they might just ask me a question. So I think in the public system, she had gotten used to, like, if I don't raise my hand and I don't answer any questions, but I do my homework, I just, like, people will just leave me alone, which is kind of what was happening. So now we've got this element where she has no choice. She can no longer be the wallflower that she wishes she could be. But I'm finding that sometimes she's telling me a story and she's like, well, and then I said, oh, like you. And so it's definitely pushing her outside of her comfort zone, but I don't think she even really realizes it anymore. Like, into her 3rd year here, it's just become the new norm. So I'm super thrilled about that. And then my youngest daughter in grade 8 is like, I've always called her my sunshine baby. The glass is always half full. Everything was delicious, no matter if it wasn't her favorite. Like, she loves everything. And so having come here, she's got all these opportunities. Like, the girls did a lot of dance when we were in the US. And so they hadn't really practiced many sports, but you don't have to have a base in something. You can just come. So she's been on the soccer team. She's been on the volleyball team. She's been on the badminton team. She was on the golf team. She's just like, every opportunity thrown her way, she's like, I'm going to try that. Okay, I'm going to be on this council. I'm going to be in this club. We're making these things. I need your sewing machine. And so she's just like, she's all in on every single activity she could possibly get her hands on. And so I love it. So it's nurturing them all in different ways. And it's funny how the teachers can tell what each kid needs and can go and teach them differently or pull them out of their shell or just push them really hard. Whatever each kid needs, the school is able to supply that. And I think that's really, really special.
That's awesome. Thank you, Julie. That's great. And it's funny knowing all these girls as well. It's like, it's hearing what I see every day, which is great.
Yeah.
Julie, I'm going to stay with you. And I'm going to ask you to let me know, what do your girls, or what would they say about the school?
Okay, so I did have a funny conversation last night with the girls. Given that I've just explained their 3 personalities. My oldest was like, I was like, how would you describe Elmwood? And she was like, old. And I was like, oh, honey. And she was like, no, not old, like an old person, like old, like they've got all these traditions and like everything's in place and everything's set up and they know what to do and they've been doing it for so long that they're really good at it. And so I don't know why that was the word she picked. She picked old. Maddie, my youngest, was saying, she was like, oh, you need to tell them how many sports there are and there's so many different teams and the bistro has the best food and I really like the curry. And then my other daughter's like, oh, I don't like the curry. Anyway, so a lot of different answers came about what they would have to say about the school, but also like definitely like Sigil was saying is all these opportunities. Like last year, Alex in grade 11, they went to a lab at Ottawa U. Actually, Sigil, you probably even have been in that lab where there's cadavers, which to me sounds horrific. I would much rather not. But she was like, Mom, we got to dissect and see all the parts. And these are opportunities that, like just high school kids in general, they just don't have this opportunity. How many kids went to that lab? I want to say there was like 8 or 10 girls that went. So they were there with a whole bunch of first-year medical students who were explaining to them just these opportunities that are just not, they're just not available. I don't know how you would come across an opportunity like that. So there's all signs. I feel like every week, well now not with COVID, but every week there's a field trip. One of my daughters is going somewhere, they're going, well, I'm going to a play or I'm going to this, or we're gonna go that, or we're gonna walk to the rockeries and we're gonna pick flowers and then paint them. It's just the opportunities are just endless.
Amazing. That's amazing. Thank you, Julie. And Ryan, what would Bridget say?
Well, she'd say a lot of the same things. I think the points about, the opportunities really resonate with me, as well as I think the old comment, I like that a lot. And Bridget often talks about, in that context, she talks about how organized it is. So I think she likes the organization. Like she's a kid who likes the structure, and they're doing this project now where they're, spatially, developing these maps of the layout of the school and having to provide directions. And, it's it's this project with a lot of elements to it that she's using all of her creative faculties, and she's, it builds very much on like the structure and the organization that the school provides, in terms of like, even in the morning, like when you come into the parking lot and you've got the one of the staff there directing traffic to make sure the girls can, like, that stuff's all impressive. So Bridget comments on that, and I also find that quite impressive too. And to use more of Bridget's words, like, and this is a fun one because she often says like, Elmwood's the greatest. Like she'll literally say it's the greatest school. Like she's got a lot of pride in her school. She's very, very proud of Elmwood, and she's proud to go there. I mentioned the anecdote earlier about her taster day, and to this day she still says like, I never want to go anywhere else. Like she wants to be there for the long haul, because again, it just offers her so much, and it's such a fun, energizing, nurturing environment for her to be in, and it's really something that maximizes her potential. So she regularly says, I love my school, I love being there, I love it so much. She's also a big fan of the bistro. So further to Julie's point, like she gets almost irrationally excited about the menu and what the bistro is doing. But yeah, she has nothing but great things to say about it. And again, I think that just goes back to my comments earlier about how it's just generally increased her happiness, and she's a much more confident kid for having been there.
Thanks so much. This is like a good news afternoon. If you ever want to be picked up, this is awesome to hear as head of school. So thank you. Just a bit of a context, our bistro is, we have professional chefs who use locally sourced food from farms. And we're very fortunate that our food is incredible. So just some context on that. Ryan, I'm going to keep you on. The last question is, and I think you've answered it in many ways, both of you, is how would you describe the values of the school and the values of the families in the school community?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Whitehouse. And I think to a large extent, you're right. We've talked about, a lot of different descriptors that represent Elmwood, not just myself, but obviously Julie and Sigil as well. And, I think to add to this, I'd throw out words like empowerment, in the sense that it's giving the girls the wherewithal and the knowledge and the tools to really help them to better make their own decisions and make more meaningful contributions to society, because I know that that's where this is all leading. If it's Sigil or Julie's kids or anyone else at the school, there's a purpose, right? There's a mission. The other one I would say is self-determination. I think it's one that it very much focuses on, and this is straight to Julie's point earlier, it's one of, focusing on and enhancing and bringing out the specific values and the personalities of the girls, and really focusing what their strengths are and helping them to, weaknesses isn't the right word, but help them become stronger in the areas where there's growth potential and growth opportunities, right? So, and in that context, I'd probably add one more in terms of continuous improvement. Like, it's something, I always see Elmwood as something like always striving to be better, right? And I think whether, that applies to the institution itself, I think that applies to the educators and the administrators. And I also think that applies to the students. That's what the school is trying to ingrain and instill with the girls, is sort of a philosophy of continuous improvement, which I absolutely love. So other words I'd use to describe the community and the families, or writ large, and again, I would include the school and the teachers and the administrators, is respect. It's very, very important word, very heavily focused on respect. That is evident in any interaction I've ever had with anyone in the Elmwood community, which is a really nice thing to see. I would also include dedication, particularly in these times, because I know a lot of work goes into ensuring that it's a safe place for the girls to go, and during a pandemic, and you can see the amount of effort and planning and thought that's gone into managing COVID-19 is pretty remarkable. And I think I said this to Elise and you, Mr. Whitehouse, on the first day of school, that it was very well organized, very well communicated. And that to me is just a demonstration of the dedication that everyone in the Elmwood community has to ensuring a safe space for the girls. With that, I think go caring and commitment. I mean, it goes without saying that everyone is committed to the mission of the school, to the vision, to create the empowered leaders of tomorrow. So yeah, I think those would be some I'd use to describe both the school and the community. And it's it sure is a nice welcoming environment to be a part of.
That's incredible. Thank you, Ryan. That's really, it's lovely to hear, and it really aligns with what we say about us too. So it's great to hear that from a parental perspective. And Julie, the last word goes to you from the formal questions. Over to you.
There's no words left. Ryan has used up all the words. Another good word would be grit. So I feel like the girls are taught at Elmwood that if at first you don't succeed, try again. Like, there's none of this, well, I tried once and now I'm embarrassed because I failed. They're kind of taught that, it's okay to fail. And really that's how we learn the most. And so the girls come out with some grit. Like, they're not afraid to try new things, but they're not afraid to fail at those new things and try again, which I think is so important in these days, because I feel like generally out in the world, people are just they're not risk takers. They're not gritty. They give up too quickly, too easily. And so I think that I think that's such a great thing that we can offer the girls, that by going to Elmwood, they come out like grittier, but at the same time, kind of like what Ryan was saying, it's a really safe environment. And I feel like the way that you become comfortable trying and failing at things is when you feel really safe. Like you feel like the people around you, they love you, they care about you. So you're not afraid to try those things. I think if you're in an environment where you're not feeling safe, then you're more likely to hold back. So I think it kind of proves that it's super safe, which makes them more willing to take risks. And I hope that if they've had enough years experience, that when they go into the world, they just assume that that's how it's going to be. So I think grit is a great word. The potential that the girls have, yeah, I just, there's nothing about Elmwood that I can think of that's negative. Like every opportunity that the girls have been given has helped them to grow, has helped them to learn. I just could not be happier with how their education is working out. And it's far for us. We drive an hour each way to get to Elmwood in the morning and in the afternoon. And I would not, well, I wouldn't move because I love my house, but I wouldn't change that. I've got how many more years? Maddie's in grade 8. I've got several more years of driving, and that's okay. I don't mind, because it's worth every kilometer, every penny, every moment. Definitely.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. And one of your daughters doesn't drive? Alex surely should be able to drive.
Okay, so we're so close, but because of COVID, she couldn't do classes for 6 months. So now we've pushed back. So I think in November she'll have her driver's license. But that's just, it's just a teaser, because then next year she goes off to university and I have to drive them again.
Probably safer to stay as it is.
Yeah.
So listen, we've come to the end of our formal questions, and I would love to thank the panelists. You've done an amazing job. Again, this was not prepared. You had the questions, but we hadn't actually met to discuss this in depth. So for me as head of school, listening to those responses, it really makes me feel very, very good about the school. I would like to reiterate, we are a family. It's something that I personally hold very dear to my heart, is that the school represents the family that we want to be in. And I love every minute of interacting with everybody in it. So it's great to hear from people in the community that they feel the same way. So now is for questions. And I think in the chat, we've answered the questions that have been asked thus far. But if there is any questions, feel free. Jennifer, you have a question?
I have one question that came in privately, which is for Sigil, about how do you think Elmwood prepared you for university?
That's a great question, and it doesn't require long to think about, actually, because I will flat out say that it prepared me extremely well. I took the full Ivy diploma in grades 11 and 12. So for those who aren't aware, it basically simulates kind of the academic environment of what you would see in university. Their assessments are very few and they're weighted quite heavily. Yeah, so I took the IB diploma. All my courses were IB level classes. And I even got some credits that I could redeem in university from those. And I guess that was kind of the icing on the cake, but truly the IB diploma helped me learn how to time manage really well. And that's something that's very valuable for your first couple of years in university. I feel like those who haven't gone through such a rigorous academic process take some time to develop that during at least the first year of university. And I kind of came into first year having had that experience already, which made the transition from high school to university a little less daunting than it is for most people.
Thanks, Sigil. That's a great answer. Do we have any more questions? You're on mute, Jennifer.
Sorry. Another one about how we manage workload and homework at school.
And that's for me?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, do you mind repeating the question again?
Sure. It's how do you manage workload and homework at the school?
Right. Workload and homework. So it has been a couple years since I left the school, so I can only speak for my personal experience. But as far as homework and workload go, from my time, I remember that a lot of the classes were structured in a way that you learn a lot of the theory at school. Some of the theory is given to you to do at home or to learn at home, and it really did depend on the class, because different subjects are learned well when taught differently. And for example, in a science class, it was pretty theory-based in the lecture period, and then once you got home, you did practice problems. For something like English, a lot of the class time was spent on discussion, and the time you spent at home was more reading the text and doing a lot of like personal analysis. So in terms of balancing homework and workload, it was kind of a mix between having a traditional classroom and a flipped classroom, where the student does the bulk of the work at home and then comes to class for questions and discussion with the rest of the group. And I think as a student, I benefited from both equally.
I know the parents want to elaborate on that. I can say some things too, but it's probably better coming from you guys.
Yeah, I'm happy to chime in and start. From our perspective, I mean, I think Bridget hasn't had a lot of homework, which she has enjoyed, right? Like at the same time, when she does do her homework, she's motivated to do it, and she'll do it on her own. We never have to ask her if she's if she needs to do something or she should do something. She's, as I said, earlier about, being more motivated for school. I think she's just got a more of a stronger sense and more enthusiasm for learning now, right? So when she does have homework, she does it, and it hasn't been, a significant amount of time that she spends on it. I think, Sigil said it really well, is that the time at the school is used well. I mean, she goes to school, she's busy, she's focusing, she's concentrating, and even in her study hall classes or her study hall time, she's working. So it's well managed, and I think, again, the overall programming is well structured, such that there's not a lot of spillover into the home, and whatever she does do that she chooses to do, she does it on her own accord. So I find it's a really good balance, if in fact you can call it a balance, because, as I said, most of the work is done at the school.
That's great. I mean, my philosophy is homework should be for passion and practice. It shouldn't be that the school day here is very long. It's a long day. The girls are pushed. It's actually the same length pretty much as people's work days. And so when the girls go home, I want them to really double down on that cultural capital and the social capital they get from their parents and being at home. I want them to enjoy conversations with mum and dad or their brothers and sisters, whatever that is. I don't want them to be locked into another few hours of work where they don't have support. Saying that, as the girls get older and they move towards university, and they do start taking on more of their own homework, as Sigil said, they start realizing that they have to do extra parts of study depending on what course they want to go to, what university they want to go to. But for me, it really is, the home learning should be about passion. They're passionate, they want to learn more, they're interested in it, or practice, that they're practicing a skill, a math skill, a musical skill, a sporting skill, whatever it is. And really, over the past 3 or 4 years, it's actually nice to hear, Ryan, you say that, because we've worked really hard on reducing the amount of work that comes home, because our school day is so busy for the girls. And I really want home to be a place of, as I say, cultural and social capital, where they use their environment at home to be educated in a different way.
There's one thing that I did want to add is that, sorry, Julie, just very quickly.
Go first.
The fact that the courses at Elmwood are non-semestered makes it very easy for the student to take in information and apply it. I found that, like, I realized that that's a stark difference between an undergrad degree and high school, but I found that because my courses were non-semestered at Elmwood, there were quite a few chances for me to go up to the teacher and ask my personal questions. We'd work through a lot of the problems together in class. Actually, a lot of our classroom time was dedicated to a work period, where the teacher would go through questions with you. You'd work through questions in little groups and then take them up afterwards. So that really eased a lot of the pressure that I would have felt if I had just come home and attempted the problems on my own without having any formal guidance from my professor, my teacher. Yeah.
Thanks, Sigil. Julie, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, so I just wanted to say, so when we started, Maddie, my youngest, was in grade 6, like Bridget. And so I would say, James, you're probably doing a really good job with your homework situation, because I feel like grade 6 and grade 7, Maddie had very little homework. She had to practice her musical instrument. She had to do some reading always for English class, whatever book they were reading. But mostly she was able to come home. And I feel like grade 6 and 7, they're still little.
Yeah.
They still need to go and play outside. They still need to like just let out some energy. So there was very little. I feel like now she's in grade 8, it's starting to be a little bit more serious. And by more serious, I mean maybe 45 minutes per night of everything put together, maybe. So I feel like it's a great kind of curve. Mm-hmm. And also, like they were saying, it's that as you get older, you start to realize that you need to put in the effort. It's not the teacher has told you have to do it. So Zoli's like within the first couple of days of grade 10 this year, she said, I can tell this is going to be legit. So I'm gonna have to do more homework. And I was like, well, good, but also like it was coming from her. I wasn't the one saying, don't you think you should be and shouldn't? So to me, that's a win right there. If she's the one saying, okay, I can tell I'm gonna have to up my game a little, good. So it's kind of like when you're younger, there's very little homework. They're learning everything in class. As they get older, they're still learning everything in class, but they realize that they need to use it to study, and they need to sort of like, oh, well, I was iffy with that part of math, so maybe I need to go over it. And yeah, and I agree with Sigil. I'm so glad that Elmwood is not semestered. Can you imagine having like math the first semester of one year and the second semester the next year? You have a whole year with no math? Yeah. No, absolutely not. So I'm thrilled that they're not semestered.
That's good. Awesome to hear. Thank you. Jennifer, any other questions?
Yes, we have one more, which again is for Sigil. So maybe if you can cast your mind back, or maybe draw on your sister's experience as well from graduating last year. But the question is around how the guidance department helped you decide on your career path.
Yeah, wow, what a great question. Back when I was kind of considering different career options, what I really valued about Elmwood is that we had a very accessible guidance department that I could approach if ever I had any sort of professional or university related question. And our guidance counselor was like that as well, very approachable person. And if ever I had such a question, I would ask her and, talk to her about different opportunities, for example, pursuing different university programs. I told her that I eventually want to look towards pursuing a career in medicine. So like, what should I do? Where should I go? What kinds of extracurriculars should I have? Like there's quite a big kind of array of activities that you have to have in order to build a resume for a career in medicine. So what do you think I should do? So firstly, there was a very approachable guidance team that we had that I would have the freedom to ask any question kind of whenever I wanted to. Also, we, like many other high schools in Ontario, have a careers class, which I found to be extremely helpful in coming up with programs to apply to and understanding what kind of a learner I was and what career I would be beneficial for me as a person, like which career I would thrive in. So there I learned about a scholarship actually at the University of Ottawa. It's a research scholarship where they give $10,000 to an incoming first-year student in the Faculty of Science. And right from the get-go, you can participate in a university research lab. Oftentimes, students in science don't get to participate in research until their fourth year honors project. So as an incoming high school student, that was incredible for me to even think of. And it was in my careers class that I kind of was introduced to that idea of pursuing research right out of high school. And I asked my guidance counselor whether or not this would be something that would be appropriate for me. Like, I didn't have much research experience in high school. I know a lot of students go out to university labs and do research internships with them. That's great, but I didn't have that, so I didn't know if it was right for me. And my guidance counselor made sure that she encouraged me all the way through. She asked my chemistry professor or teacher actually to write me a reference letter for that, which was great. And everyone was so encouraging about it. And, you know, fast track by the end of grade 12, I did end up getting that scholarship, and I do work in a research lab since I graduated high school, and now I run projects on my own. I've been a co-author on a paper, and yeah, it's really kind of shaped the way it shaped my educational and career outlook. My research is more like it's more on biomedical imaging. So I was really set on a career in medicine, and I still am, but I know that there is this new contingency that I can go towards, and I can pursue a career in biomedical imaging. That's something I would love to spend my life doing if given the opportunity. So back to your question about the guidance department at my school prepared me for university. It prepared me extremely well. It never hindered me from pursuing anything. If I had a question, the guidance department answered it extremely honestly and truthfully. And yeah, I attribute a lot of what I am today and where I am today to that.
Awesome. Thanks, Sigil. That's great. Do we have any final questions? I know we have 2 minutes left before. Anything else, Jennifer?
We have one final question in the chat, which is probably for the parents, which is about the leadership opportunities that the girls have at school.
To you.
Okay, so who would like to start with that?
Yeah. There's a ton of leadership opportunities at the school. So one of the things that I guess I hadn't really wrapped my brain around was at an all-girls school, all the clubs, all the committees, all the everything are run by girls. So every single girl thinks that she can run any club because it's already been run by a girl before. Does that make sense? I don't want to sound like, oh, the football club, oh, that's a boys club, I can't join that. Or the science club, it's all boys, I don't want to do that. So every single club of the, I feel like there's 100 clubs at Elmwood, is run by a girl, and they're paired up with a staff member. So the staff member is there to help them, whether it's a teacher, whether it's to help them get their club running. But any girl can start any club that's already existing. The girl can say, well, next year I want to be part of the leadership of that club. There's a whole prefect team. So in grade 12, are there like 12 or 13 girls that are voted by their peers to become a prefect? So there's a prefect for community help. There's a prefect for each of the houses. There's a head girl. There's a sports prefect. There's a prefect for everything. And these girls, they lead the whole rest of the school in that area. So they decided they wanted to run it. They're up there. It's great experience for them in leadership. It's great experience for the other girls to watch the girls be leaders. I think to me, that's almost more important than the actual leadership, is the knowing that you can lead anything. If the club's not there, if there's a club that you want to run that doesn't exist at Elmwood, 100%. Find yourself a teacher. That teacher will support you. You can start that club. Just do it. So, and also we didn't talk at all about Duke of Ed, but the Duke of Ed program is at Elmwood as well. And it's like it involves community service and learning a new skill and doing some kind of outdoor activity like a camping trip or a canoe trip or the winter camping trip. So there's all these different opportunities to participate in activities, but you can be the leader of those activities.
Awesome, great answer. Okay, guys, I think we need to call that a day. It's been so nice being able to chat with you and answer your questions. We do have a virtual open house going to take place towards the end of October, which if you visit our website, you can do that. And if there are any other questions, Elise Aylen, our Director of Admissions, has all the answers. She has daughters that went through school too, so she can speak about her experiences as well. But I would like to say a big thank you to our panelists this afternoon for taking your time out of your busy days and talking about what is our home here at Elmwood, and is such a special place. It's been a great afternoon for me, and I'm so grateful for your time. Thank you, everybody, and enjoy your afternoon.